Welcome to the Amador Fire Can Report, your source for real stories, real service, and real impact across Amador County. From the vineyards in the valley to the snow-capped Sierras, our district serves over 500 square miles with 9 stations and putting 7 engines on the road every single day, with the support of over 30 dedicated volunteers. I'm your host, Kayla Dale, and welcome to Season 2.
Was that a moment where I was supposed to?
No.
Amador Fire sent us these videos of the home on fire there.
The residential structure response. Secret Road and
County tonight, firefighters are on the scene of a wine facility fire, and you can see the large flames.
111 expectation.
Welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of the Amador Fire Can Report. Today I'm sitting down with our coach, Vance Mueller, and Captain Gorley here, and we're going to talk all about fitness, functional fitness, and how we have integrated Coach Mueller into our daily workout routine here at Amador Fire. So to start out, I think we just dive in and have you start introducing yourself and kind of how you got here in this spot.
Well, sure. Hey, thank you for having me. Captain Gorley, thank you for having me. Been enjoying working with the firefighters. And about a year ago, Captain Gonzalez called me and said, hey, we were kind of looking for a fitness director. We would like to have just a little help in kind of designing some programs, having a plan. We've kind of gotten stale in what we were doing, so we're just kind of looking to refresh what we're doing in our fitness. So he gave me a call, and I came on over, and then we just did a few workouts together and kind of shaped it and said, hey, is this the kind of thing that you guys are looking for? And so far, we got pretty good feedback from the firefighters, so I think that's what we were looking for.
No, absolutely. And that really transitions into one of the things that I really wanted to talk about. You know, when Chief Withrow started with us here at Amador Fire, gosh, it's been like 3 years now, he really recognized that we were having a handful of injuries, and not necessarily just from working out, but from being on the fire ground itself. And he identified us having functional fitness as an important portion of this. And I think that that's really the transition point of bringing you into this, is identifying how can we prevent injuries moving forward, how can we do proper workouts and strengthen ourselves so when they are on the fire ground, we're not having as many injuries.
Sure.
So I think this is a good time to talk about functional fitness.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear from your perspective, and then Captain Gorley, from being on the fire ground, like how has that changed your workout regimen too?
Yeah, well, functional fitness is really imperative, and I think you find in the workplace, but also like in sports area, functional fitness is becoming very important, and not just what you do in the weight room, but how it applies to the things that you do in your workplace, whether it's firefighters on the playing field or whatever. And functional fitness is really about doing a style of training that applies to your everyday life directly into what you do in your profession or your daily living. So there's kind of 7 key elements that involve in functional fitness. You have squatting, you have lunging, you have hinging, which is bending from the waist, then you have pushing, you have pulling, you have rotation, and then you have gait, which is how you move from your hips with your walking both forward and laterally. And those elements are all really important. And then that leads into technique when you combine those things, when you start talking about injury prevention. And there's a lot of different things you can do for that.
Prior to bringing you in here,
Yeah.
I would be curious, what kind of workouts were you critiquing or changing that you saw our firefighters making? You know, those traditional firehouse workouts,
Yeah.
and then how you tweaked those to be more functional operationally on the fire ground.
Yeah, and I don't really think that it's wrong, that there's something that's wrong. I just think there's always ways that can be improved, and I think each firehouse is different and what they incorporate, but there's kind of common mistakes that pro athletes, coaches, everybody sort of makes in their training, that just kind of like getting your blood checked and seeing where you are, just doing a check-in from time to time is important. The number one thing I think for most people is they lack a plan. They kind of start out on one vision and then they just sort of stay on it, and it never really evolves into a full plan. So it's kind of limited. I think the biggest thing in training is that people tend to neglect body parts. So like we have a chest guy and we have one guy who's a leg guy, but the leg guy doesn't do chest and the chest guy doesn't do legs. So being able to incorporate that all together and making sure you're doing total body training, especially in such a physical job like being a firefighter. I think one of the biggest mistakes that most people make is they don't understand the difference between abs and core. There's a big difference between doing sit-ups versus doing core training, because your core really stems from the top of your shoulders to the bottom, or top of your hips to the top of your shoulders. It's not just your 6-pack or your 8-pack or 12-pack in his case, but for all of us who are normal, okay, it's not just that. Core is both front and back, so it's both posterior and anterior, so your abs and your low upper back muscles, chest, all help incorporate in your core. So training core specifically with more static movements like planks, side planks, things like that, instead of just doing sit-ups, that's really important to incorporate. A common mistake is not carrying your rest to the proper interval time. Like some people take 3 to 5 minutes rest in between sets. And if you're trying to train for recovery and performance, especially in a job where you have to be so physical, shorter rest so you have faster recovery, being able to do work longer for extended period of times with a shorter recovery time is very important.
Captain Gorley, for you, just being on the fire ground yourself, like with what he's talking about with working at your core and just strengthening yourself, where do you see that on the fire ground being the most important?
I think for us, we find ourselves in difficult positions a lot. So we're working down low in what we call a tripod position. We have a lot of weight on us. That's our gear. It's restrictive. So we're not really able to use like the full length of our muscles sometimes. So the ability to be able to move your body and not injure yourself is very important for us.
It definitely matters, and like shoulder and back injuries can be so common for athletes, but also people in a physical job like firefighters. And for firefighters, a lot of their situation has to do with not always being on level ground, having heavy gear on, and carrying unusual shaped objects, like carrying a long hose that's extremely heavy, carrying a long ladder. So you get off leverage on how you balance and carry things. So teamwork, working together is really important to eliminate some of those injuries. Having a strong core and not getting in awkward positions with the equipment, all can help prevent injuries for sure. And then doing good functional training helps strengthen those areas, gives you extra protection when you do get compromised.
For my turnouts, if I wear my full gear with a radio and a box light, I'm looking at about 38 extra pounds on me. And then you add an SCBA, another 30, 31 pounds, I'm looking at about 69 pounds of basic gear on me. And that's before I'm stretching a hose or
adding tools.
Yeah, going on the roof with a saw or an axe on me. The hose, you take a 50-foot section of hose charged, you're looking at 70 to 80 pounds right there, and that's just 50 feet. Our standard for us is to have 100 feet ready to go inside of a structure, so we're going to be pulling that. And you start working your way up, 2.5-inch hose, you're looking at like 110, 120 pounds per 50-foot section. Or, heaven forbid, with a drag a firefighter or a victim out, that's just that much more weight down in that low tripod, difficult position.
Yeah, I think people don't recognize or realize the weight of the gear alone.
Yeah.
In that, it's actually when you write it out like that or say it, it's a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And then you think that the turnout gear in particular, is not especially breathable. So imagine the dehydration that can occur, and then imagine you're in a fire. So structure fire is one thing, but imagine being in a fire situation where you're out in the wilderness and a full forest fire going on, and the heat and being able to stay hydrated and how much sweat you must have to lose in that gear in just a short amount of time.
Right, absolutely. And something that what you said just made me think of is I want to talk about hydration and talk about that, like the long lasting game in that. If they're on a structure fire for a few hours or they're on a wildland fire. What does that look like?
I mean, hydration needs to be a habit for sure. So creating a habit of hydration is really important, but knowing that hydration starts 24 hours before your actual activity. So if you know you're going to be in a fire and you're being called up, hopefully you're hydrating and getting prepared ahead of time. But having a resource available when you're there so you can rehydrate when you're out there is really important.
Yeah, and just the aspect of critical thinking as well. You know, it's not just about cramping or those issues. You know, it's about thought process and being able to work through difficult situations.
Yeah. So how do you prep yourself, Captain Gorley? Like when you're on shift for 48, what are you, or even before you come on shift, just walk me through what that looks like. You're prepping to come on shift.
Yeah, so for me, it's important. Nutrition is a big thing. It's important because it's about prepping yourself for the next day. So I'm making sure I'm eating well, I'm drinking throughout the day. They say, and you could probably correct me here, but I believe it's an ounce of water per body weight in the summertime, and maybe half that or so in the wintertime. But even if you're not thirsty, you're drinking water. You know, so. In the morning, I usually, I'll chug a full glass of water and I'll have like some sort of hydration packet in that. And, throughout the day, I'm just making sure that, if it's lunchtime, instead of trying to push through, 2-3 hours past lunch, I try and keep a regimen of when we're eating because we don't know when we're going to get that call. So to make sure that all the guys are fed and, well nourished is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Were you surprised by any maybe techniques or routines that our guys were on when you first started here in terms of nutrition or preparation for hydration? Maybe we shouldn't answer that question.
Well, I mean, I think nutrition is always important, and I've been a high school coach for a long time, and one of the biggest mistakes that you see is the kids get off of school, they have 20 minutes before practice starts, they run to Taco Bell and they get fiery nachos, and then they wonder why they're puking in basketball practice. Why can't I run my intervals at my normal time? So nutrition is a big deal and you see it, but I think it just applies to everybody, and I think sometimes it gets harder for adults when they're in their pace of life with children, work, and how it goes, coming prepared. So if you can develop those habits of preparedness with your food, like for me, I always cook on the weekend, so I have my food sort of laid out for the week because I know I get busy at work, and next thing I know, I'm like, oh my gosh, I missed my lunch, so I want to have food already prepared so you can make a healthy choice and not pull into AM PM and get 2 devil dogs with extra chili and wonder why I'm not feeling good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's ironic you guys talk about this because don't ask me how, but I randomly got on a YouTube video last night of talking about hitting protein goals and how many people don't hit those protein goals or think they are.
Yeah.
And it was just interesting. They kind of deep dove into some foods, your cottage cheese, your cheeses, etc. But when you really think about it, and then I'm curious, like, what are my protein goals? And it's interesting because I'm sure most people aren't. And then when you add that onto specifically firefighting and the job and hydration and all of that, you really got to be paying attention to that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if you're supposed to eat a gram per pound of body weight, that's a lot of grams. Like for me, that's 240 grams of protein. So that's a lot. And so I try to eat 3 meals that all have protein in them. Have to have some carbs because you need some energy especially in a physical job. And then eating healthy, fats is also important. And then getting some of that stuff through your sucrose and all that and your vegetables and fruits is also really important.
I've seen, I think everybody has, how many people resort to energy drinks, especially in our world where you're up late, you're running calls all night, or you haven't slept, or whatever the case may be. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I'll go first because I kind of wanted to go back to hydration. Is that a lot of people think that drinking coffee and things like that is hydration, and it really isn't. Those things can all lead to dehydration. So the water is very important. And the ounces is correct, but it's also like 6 to 8 of these bottles a day. And 90% of people in the world, in America in particular, do not drink enough water. And it's probably the greatest resource in the world, and we need it. But we don't get in the habit of doing it. And many years ago, I got in the habit. We were playing the game in London who was having a heat wave. And so we were doing double days in London and incredible humidity. And I would go in, because we always weigh before and after practice to see what our hydration was. And I would start practice at 232 and I would come out at 220. Lose 12 pounds of water during practice. And that was when I realized how important hydration was. And ever since then, I try to always stay on top of it.
You know, unfortunately for us, it becomes kind of a habit because, you know, you don't know when you're going to get that call. You know, a lot of people like to stay up a little later. Some of the things we're finding with, you know, with caffeine is how it affects your sleep. And, you know, for myself, I try to limit, you know, any kind of caffeine after about noon if I can. And a big portion of that is because of recent resiliency training I had that taught me the effects of, you know, caffeine, even alcohol, you know, past a certain time can affect your sleep rhythms and prevent your body from being able to repair and do the things it's supposed to do, you know, at night. So, you know, it's really easy if you go into a gas station now and you look at the, you know, at the drinks there. 90% of them are going to be energy drinks. You know, it's just it's something for us easy grab to try and keep us going. You know, rather than trying to allow our bodies to you know, create the energy itself naturally.
And you know, with the energy drinks, it's like a coffee times 3 because it's loaded with both caffeine and sugar. So you get this incredible high, but then you get this major drop, and it really does affect kids. And it goes to what Coach was saying here about critical thinking. You know, they get foggy and then they crash, and then their thinking goes, and they just make poor decisions in general. And so I'm not a big fan of the energy drinks. And like protein bars, energy drinks, they have their place. There's times where you maybe run down low and need a quick fix, but that's all it is. It should be something that it's a supplementation and not a routine that you do regularly.
Yeah, and for the most part, what we're seeing is as soon as they hit the low from one, they're cracking open another energy drink to start the whole process over
they're
again.
saying that kids, they average 3 to 5 of those drinks a day, which is crazy. You always hear people talk about food as fuel. Okay, so what type of fuel are you putting in your engine? Are you putting, you know, corroded old oil and, you know, old gas that's 5 years old? Or, you know, are you eating good, clean food that's giving you good, clean fuel? Because when you put old fuel in an engine, you know how it runs, not as well. But when you put good, clean fuel in there, off it goes. So it is important to pay attention.
Absolutely. I want to ask, what surprised you the most, or what was your thought process when we reached out to you to come work for Amador Fire as a coach?
Well, I was excited about the opportunity for sure, but I was also a little intimidated because, you know, when you come in, you know, firefighters are a close-knit group, and you know that they have sort of their routine, and you don't want to come in and say, okay, I'm Mr. Know-It-All, I'm going to teach you guys how to work out. And my approach, and I hope that you guys have felt it's been like this, is that I was just trying to be an additional tool, something that you can add to the toolbox, sharpen the knife, whatever. Take a look at what you've been doing and see, hey, maybe there's some things I could bring that we could add or take away and just maybe improve what we're doing. And I've tried to take it from that approach.
Absolutely. And I know that we are so grateful for you, and I hear nothing but great things from the crews. And after they work out with you, I heard that they get their butts kicked here and there, but they like it. But we are so grateful to have you on board, and I know I can speak confidently that we have seen a major change in terms of preventing injuries for Amador Fire specifically, and that was the entire goal all along.
Well, I mean, I thank you guys. I've really enjoyed it. It's been fun for me, and I feel like now I've kind of earned some of the guys' trust, and I feel like we're working really good as a unit, and hopefully not dreading when I come, but looking forward to the workouts.
Absolutely. I hear nothing but great things. So.
I feel like we're kind of underselling this guy a little bit, though.
Yeah.
I mean, he's built like a brick house, and, you know, when he's coming towards you, you feel like being approached by the Terminator. You know, he's got scars on his knees. It's just,
Yeah, I do.
You know,
I have a few scars for sure.
You could touch him and stuff.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, to wrap up this, I want to ask your perspective from both of you guys. how does training together build crew culture? That you talked about it a little bit earlier, of like the importance of training together, and especially with us having a new firefighter academy coming up. What is the connection there that you're seeing when people are working out together?
You start this one.
Yeah, I think that working together, working out together is one of the biggest and probably most important aspects to creating that crew culture. Mm-hmm. You forge bonds through blood, sweat, and tears, and shared effort, shared hard times. Those are the building blocks to us getting to know each other and being a part of something that's bigger than us, and mm-hmm. being there for our community.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're in some type of physical job and that has a very strong element of danger, and teamwork is essential. Mm-hmm. So I think when you go through some of these adversities together, both in your training and in your job, more importantly than anything, you build a sense of trust. Absolutely. That I know that I can count on you when it's going to matter, and vice versa, that you can count on me. Mm-hmm. And when you're in those situations, you need to know that everybody's capable and they can do the job when it's required.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that, we fall back on our core values, mm-hmm. pride, accountability, respect. Failure is number one instructor for us, mm-hmm. and training us control failure.
Mm-hmm. No, I love it. Good. Let's talk a minute about building healthy habits for firefighters, or I guess anyone in general.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, I think always kind of looking at your plan. Am I following my plan? How do I adjust my plan? What are things that I can do to improve? For me, there's kind of that I see over and over in the fitness industry, kind of 5 things. And I think the number one thing that people neglect, and is probably the most important habit, is sleep. Mm-hmm. We tend to be so busy in our lives, and we're always go, go, go. We don't allow ourselves enough downtime and rest. When we get a chance to rest, we fill it with things constantly. But also in that sleep, you need at least 6 hours of good, solid sleep so you get in that REM, and so you wake up refreshed and ready to go. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we do, everybody's on their phone right before they go to bed. Right. What are all the things I got to check off? Oh my gosh, that thing on Amazon, what a great deal. Oh, I don't need that. Oh, I see there's a car deal right now. Anyway, so you do all that and you go to bed, and then your mind is just racing. Mm-hmm. Instead of shutting off the phone, taking your shower or bath, whatever you do, you're relaxing mode, so when you lay down, you're ready to go to sleep and get that nice sleep. So there's kind of 5 things. Sleep is number 1. 2, what we talked about is hydration. Mm-hmm. Knowing that drinking coffee throughout the day is not hydration. Mm-hmm. You need to fill it in with juice and water, things that are healthy for you throughout the day. Nutrition. And nutrition is one of those things that we overlook all the time. And there is no golden rule, but there is one thing that is super important, and that is eliminate as much processed food as you can. And even deli meat is highly processed. So unless it's freshly sliced and coming right off the bird, a lot of those things are just packed with chemicals and preservatives to make them last longer in your fridge. Bread can last for months. And so eating healthy and non-processed, so the chips and all that kind of stuff, is just loaded. But even protein bars can be highly processed, and there are some healthy ones that digest properly and don't stay in your stomach for 7 to 10 days. Wow. So that part is really important. Try to eliminate as much processed food as you can and eat as fresh and natural as possible. And one of the reasons why we don't is because if you buy things that are organic, all of a sudden your price tag is double, and so we're always looking for the stuff that's on sale. So it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
And I think another thing, number 4, is stretching. Most people just go straight into work without any type of stretching routine. And because I've been in track and football ever since I was young, I'm just naturally, I do it. Mm-hmm. And I always do it at night before I go to bed. When I take a shower, I always stretch in the shower when I'm nice and hot. Mm-hmm. And cooling down, and it's also relaxing. So it gets you in a nice kind of calm mode. And then I think supplementation is a really big thing for us. Taking a multivitamin and mineral, because all the studies have shown that the food we eat is void of the nutritional factors that they used to have 25, 30 years ago. Vegetables are grown hydroponically. They're not grown in soil where you get all the dense nutrients that you need. And 95% of Americans are mineral deficient in their diet. And so supplementation is really an easy way to help do it if you can't solve it with your food choices.
I'm curious, actually, if you're comfortable, to walk me through, like, what is your nightly routine to just unwind? Because you mentioned about the scrolling your phone, and I know so many people, myself included, are guilty of that. You know, you're laying awake, you can't go to sleep, you're doom scrolling on your phone, and you just wait until you're tired enough, and now it's 11 o'clock at night, and you got to be up at 6 a.m.
So a few years ago, my wife and I went on this long hike, and we were gone for a while. And our phones were off all the time. And I realized how important that was. And so for the last 2 years in particular, when it hits 8 o'clock, I just kind of take my phone and set it off to the side. And then right before I go to bed, the only thing I do is I just plug it in to charge it.
Yeah.
So I know, but I turn my ringer down. And instead of being on my phone and things like that, I've just personally got into the habit of just being outside, sitting on my front porch and enjoying. I have a nice view in the back and sitting there, and I've been in a reading habit now where I just read. But whatever it is, I take 30 minutes before I'm getting ready to go to bed. So if I'm going to go to bed at 9, 8:30 I start just in my wind down mode. So allow yourself 30 minutes before you get ready to do that, whatever it is. And in that 30 minutes, I usually take a shower before I go to bed because that helps me unwind and it helps me relax. And so I always start with that.
Yeah, I like that. How about you, Captain Gray?
Another thing I do, on top of some of the things you do, I do as well. Reading is probably the best thing to put me to sleep, so that's one option. But I'll set an alarm, at 9 o'clock, and then it's just a bedtime alarm. It just reminds me, hey, it's time to start kind of unwinding and to start focusing on putting the phone away and go through your routine.
What about building healthy habits? This is all making me think of more, but what are some simple things that we can just tweak? We talk about phones, but to build healthy habits or change into healthy habits, especially here in the firehouse, I want to say it would be hard to unwind 30 minutes before bed at a station knowing, you don't know if there's calls or not. But I think there's things that we can be more intentional about to change and be aware of that.
Whenever, you talk about healthy habits, and we all have things that we need to change. When I have a personal training client, I always start with one thing. What's the one thing that you know that you could immediately improve? Eliminating sodas. Okay, eliminating too much television. Eating one thing that you shouldn't be eating, whether it's every day I love to reach for a Snickers instead of an apple, or I'm eating chips. Just try to go 30 days eliminating one thing. I think if you can start at one thing, it gives you confidence to add another. But if you say, hey, I'm going to change these 5 things, you're almost doomed for failure because it's so hard to just immediately shift gears and change. But if you can focus on one thing, that gives you the strength to kind of move into your next thing.
Right, especially doing it for that 30 days, kind of, like you said, builds the confidence that, hey, I can do this. Yeah. I don't need it. I'm realizing that, and there's more that I can eliminate.
Yeah, and then once that's gone, you're like, you feel good. All right, give me my next challenge,
Yeah, absolutely. I want to wrap up this episode by you giving one piece of advice to our crews or our firefighters about maintaining their health.
Yeah, well, I would say when it comes to health, the number one thing is don't take it for granted. There's a saying that's out there, health is wealth, and it is so important. You need to stay active. You need to stay safe in your job and in your preparation. So that thought process of being smart about how I prep for my day and my evening and all those things, taking all that as kind of a holistic approach that, hey, my health is super valuable. And when you become a firefighter and you're over 40, the kids in their 20s are not worried about it, but when you're 40, testing yourself, getting your physical done, checking your prostate. When you get your physical, get a blood panel done. Because, I just turned 62, and when I did my blood panel this year, the first time my cholesterol was up. And it was just outside normal, and I'm like, hey, what's that all about? And then I kind of looked back, evaluate, and it had to do with red meat. I was eating steak like a maniac, and I wasn't mixing in my fish, my turkey, and so I had to cut back on red meat. And so I think we all just sort of get in little habits and routines, and sometimes you get off track. And so it's important to never take it for granted.
Absolutely.
A little different approach, but it's mindset. For us as firefighters, we need to remember that it's not about us anymore. So our health, how physically fit we are, our families, your families, and our community rely on that. So that can help with the mindset aspect of that.
Well, and it all, for me, what I'm thinking right now is it all circles back to our operational readiness. Not just are we training, are we putting water on for all those things, but are we maintaining our health, our fitness, our functional fitness to maintain our operational readiness to serve our community the best that we can. I think it's kind of what I'm thinking all of this rounds up to be.
Well, yeah, it's being the best that you can be for sure. And, when you take this job, like being a police officer, you sort of take an oath that, hey, I'm taking this job to protect our community.
Right.
And I need to be at my best, both mentally and physically, so I'm capable to perform when called upon, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I just want to reiterate to you, we are so grateful to have you here as our coach. Like I said earlier, I hear nothing but great things from all of our crew members. I know that they're excited to meet with you when you're coming to the station. So thank you very much for hanging with us and doing this and strengthening our crews every workout. So.
Well, I have tremendous thanks and appreciation for Amador Fire. I'm very glad to be a part of this team. I hope that everybody feels like I'm part of the team, because I know I'm feeling like that now.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy it, and I look forward to it. I start prepping on Sunday for Wednesday. I look forward to it, and so I really appreciate the opportunity.
Looking forward to this
thank
upcoming
you.
academy.
Yeah,
Yes.
looking forward to helping with the academy.
Yeah, that'll be good. And we'll keep footage through the whole thing, so it'll be really good.
Oh, okay,
Kind of
great.
reflect back on. So, well, thank you guys for sitting down with me for episode 2. I really appreciate it. And like I said, I hope that we can do this again in a couple months and see where we've grown even stronger. So.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to the academy. I think that will be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Amador Fire Can Report. If you found value in today's episode, please share it with a neighbor, a friend, or someone who wants to get a better understanding of the work that we do. And remember, stay safe, stay prepared, and we'll see you next time.